Hey, hello everybody. This is John Fenn, Church Without Walls International, CWOWI.org, talking more about the discipleship process. If you go to our website, CWOWI.org, you can sign up for my weekly thoughts, which is a weekly teaching. Comes out Friday mornings in the U.S., Saturday late morning in Australia and the other side of the date line. But anyway, I hope you sign up for that. Today, talking about the stinky dishes confusion. The stinky dishes confusion. What can that be about? Well, I'll say up front that, when someone you love does something that is confusing to you and you don't understand it, that's bad enough. But when that person is the Lord and you're wondering, what in the world are you doing in my life? That's even worse. So how this came about is that recently, the last couple of weeks, my wife and I have returned from a Europe conference, our spring Dutch conference. And once we hit the ground running, I mean, we had a couple days to rest, and then our son, handicapped son, Chris had doctor's appointments. I had appointments. There's just stuff to catch up on. You know, you're gone for 10 days. There's stuff to catch up on, and we hit the ground running. Well, in the midst of all this running around town and into Tulsa and back and everything, which is a 90-minute drive for us or more, and so there were some dishes that were left in the sink, and actually I had my birthday during that time, and so my favorite is banana cream pie, and Barbara fixed banana cream pie, and so I'm normally the one who cleans it up. We've been married this fall, it'll be 41 years. I'm normally the one who cleans up the mess. She makes the mess, I clean it up. So this day, after a trip to Tulsa and back for my own doctor's appointment, I came home and Barb was doing the dishes, and I knew that it had to be pretty bad for her to be doing the load of dishes because I would normally do it. So she was really helping me out and being a blessing. But in the right-hand side of the sink, there were two pots, and they'd had some probably cream, sour cream or milk or something in them, and they had that stinky milk smell. And so Barb's loading up the dishwasher with plates and everything else. And I said, ooh, these two pots really stink. And she says, yeah, I know it. So in my mind, I think she's going to load them next up. So I just step back and I can see that the dishwasher is mostly full and she's not going to wash them. She's not going to include them in the machine. And so I formulate a plan in my mind. I'm going to go ahead and wash them when she's done. When she steps out of the way, I'll wash them by hand and everything. But it's like, what in the world are you doing? Because, if it were me, it's like those are stinky. They get first priority. Into the machine they go. I'll take care of the easy stuff by hand, but it turned out to be the other way around. You're saying, okay, where is this going? Well, in Luke chapter 5, verses 4 through 6, 1 through 6, Peter had loaned one of his boats to Jesus so that Jesus could speak using the acoustics of the water. He could sit in one of the boats, launch out a little bit, use the acoustics of the water, and speak to the people. So when he's done, he tells Peter, he says, put your nets on the other side of the boat. And Peter objects. To him, it's very confusing, and it's very confusing in the natural. Things are out of order, just like the stinky dish confusion here with Barb loading the dishwasher after my busy day and her trying to help me out and everything. But it's like in Peter's mind, it's like, what are we doing? First off, he says, Master. And so he acknowledges that he is the Lord. He's acknowledging the word master there, ephistemi, ephistemi, means to give place to one. It means someone who's chief or someone who's in charge of you or someone's over you. So Peter's like submitting to the Lord. So he calls him master. Number 2, he states the case in the natural. We have worked all night and we're tired. In fact, the Greek language brings out the fact that he says we're actually very tired. And it doesn't come across in the King James and some of the other English, but it's there in the Greek. So he says, we worked all night. We're tired. We worked all night. So first he says, Lord, you're my master. Number 2, I'm tired. I've worked all night. Number 3, Peter lists the results. We have caught nothing. That is where we are many times when the Lord is doing things and it's totally confusing to us. We're number 1, it's master. Okay, that's what we're saying, master. Number 2, we're stating our case. I have worked hard all night. I am tired. Number 3, I don't have any results for it. But number 4 is where it comes in. Nevertheless, at your will, we'll let down the nets. Now that process of of bookends, master on the one end and nevertheless I'm going to do your will on the other end, is sandwiched. There's books in between. There's a sandwich. There's the meat in between of saying, I'm tired and I don't see any results to this point. There's this process where the Lord brings us along and says, do this. He gives us instructions. Put your nets down on the other side. Throw your nets on the other side. And the first thing we do is we say, you are Lord, I've got it. You are my master, got it. But then we have the human part of us comes out. I need to state my case here, Lord. I've already done this. Do you understand? I've done this and I've got no results. I worked hard all night. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. And then we come to the end of ourselves and we say, okay, he is our master. He is our Lord. Nevertheless, at your will, I will do what you say. That's again, Luke chapter 5, verses 4 through 6. And similar things can be found throughout the Gospels. Why did Jesus say to fill up 6 stone water pots with water? You know, what is he thinking? His mom said, just obey him. You know, they're going like, what is he doing? It says, whatever he tells you to do, just do it. Anyway, let me go on to in John chapter 11, because this is the crux of it here. In John chapter 11, verses 1 through 13, Lazarus, the friend of Jesus, and with his sisters, Mary and Martha, Lazarus is sick. And the word comes to Jesus that Lazarus is sick. Now, in the preceding chapters, 8, 9, and 10, it tells us that the Jewish leadership wanted to kill Jesus. And so Jesus really went into hiding to let things cool down a little bit, to get out of sight a little bit. And so while they're in hiding, with only a few close confidants knowing where he was, word comes that his friend Lazarus is sick. And Jesus makes a statement. He said, this sickness will not result in death, but for the glory of God. It will not have the end result, but for the glory of God. And then it says, after 2 days, after a couple more days where they were, Jesus said, okay, let's go back to Judea. And the disciples said, Lord, just a couple days ago, they wanted to kill you. Why are you wanting to go back? And Jesus' response is our wisdom for today in this. He said, are there not 12 hours in a day? If you walk in the light, you're not going to stumble. But if you walk in the darkness, you're going to stumble because there's no light in you. There's no light lighting your path. So in the circumstances of the natural, it looked like it was a foolish thing to do. In fact, down in verse 13, Thomas, the one who later would be called Doubting Thomas, says, let's go and die with him. I mean, they were convinced they were going to their deaths, but they were going to follow Jesus to the death. But Jesus said, if you're walking in the light, you don't have any occasion to stumble. And so what I'm saying is, just like Peter with throwing the net on the other side, in the natural, it doesn't look like that's the thing to do. Jesus had been in hiding for a couple days. He knows by the Spirit now Lazarus has died. He tells them plainly Lazarus had died. And that's when Thomas said, okay, let's go and die with him. He tries to break it in easier. He said he's sleeping. It's a temporary thing because it will not end in death. And they said, okay, he's sleeping. We'll just relax. He'll recover. Let's stay here where it's safe, away from the Jewish leadership who were trying to kill us. And so but when he said walking in the light, you won't have an occasion to stumble. Walking in the light means walking according to the higher revelation of the Lord in your life. That there's a point where every one of us objects, just like the disciples did here about going back into Judea, so that Jesus could raise him from the dead. But Jesus didn't reveal that he was going to raise him from the dead. He just said, we're going back in. And it's just like throw the net on the other side. Peter's going like, hold it, I've worked all night. I'm tired. I don't see any results. And these disciples are like, why are we doing this? They wanted to kill us. This is a silly thing to do. But Jesus is walking to a higher knowledge, a higher light for his path. And he did go back and they did not kill him. And he did raise Lazarus from the dead. And so, my point is, I go back to in the Psalms where it says that the Lord orders a righteous man's steps. He guides a person's steps. He makes their path plain. And there's a certain amount of trust that we have to do as human beings. We just have to say, number one, you are master. Number two, yes, I can acknowledge, I can be truthful and say, I've worked all night. It's resulted in no return on my work, on my hard work. But number four, I will nevertheless at your will do what you say. We go through that process. That's normal. That's natural. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your humanity and your frailty before the Lord. But again, master, and then you state your case. We worked all night. We see no results. And then the fourth thing, nevertheless, at your will, I will do what you say. Just like that with Lazarus and everything else. Guys, it doesn't make sense in the natural to go back. They sought to kill us, but I'm walking in a higher light. I'm walking in a higher plan. That revelation may be yours and yours alone. People around you may not understand the revelation, but if you walk in that light that he gives you, then it's all going to work out. The circumstances that seem to be against you a couple days before will dissolve away into nothing because you're walking in the Lord's timing. So anyway, that's what was on my heart for today. That's how I was instructed. So I will let you go at that. Be blessed. Talk to you next time.